let's go to what age you decide that you want to make art a career path. Like how does, because that's one of those where you either have family being very supportive of it, right, or not supportive at all.
Yeah.
So you just talk to me about like if you remember that age to say that this is what I want to pursue, and then you go to college in Virginia for this as well.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, art was always my thing. That's like I was actually good at school too. Like I had a high
Hmm.
GPA and stuff, but like art was like I was like the art guy. Like the oh this is Gian can draw. Oh he can
Yeah.
draw this and stuff like that. And everybody asked me to draw like tons of things in their yearbooks and stuff like that. So that was like my thing. But I didn't. Um, I just didn't have any reference for what to do as a career.
Hmm.
Like I was into comics and stuff like that, but I didn't even think about being a comic book artist. That didn't even like really run through my mind. But I was always like in art class, we got to do the still life. I want to spend the longest time on the still life, or we got to draw a portrait. So I was always good at just the art stuff, or I
Hmm.
just be into it more than other people. Um, but I didn't know it was, I didn't think about it as a career. But then luckily for me, the college I was going to go to, Virginia Commonwealth University, was they specialized in medicine and art. And
Okay.
my parents wanted me to be a doctor, dentist, something like that. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go, and I got a scholarship to VCU actually for my
Okay.
art. So um, I was like, I'll take all the pre med required classes and the art classes in the first year. So I have like a first year to decide so I can split off. And then after
Yeah.
that first year, I was like, yeah, I want to do art. What's so great about college is, especially a good art college, is you do get exposed to all the different paths. Like at the end of the year, so the first year was kind of weird because all art kids have to take an art foundation, which makes sense. It's just like because it's kids that like me, that are good at art, but you're just coming from high school. You all you know about is like pottery and like oil painting and stuff like that and
Yeah.
old stuff. And our art school had 7 art departments. So, but you all have to go through art foundation. So at the end of the year, each of the departments gives a presentation of what they do. So there's like kinetic imaging, which is like animation. There was graphic design, fine art, and I was really drawn to illustration. I was like, oh, this is what I like. It's just like
Yeah.
they showed. So I knew I liked illustration because of comic books, because it's kind of illustration, but it's very like kind of specific niche of illustration. But I was drawn to like the great painters, which more figurative.
Yeah.
Illustration is more generally more figurative. So um, that's what I was drawn to. And at the end of that first year of college, I would say I was like, I'm gonna go all in on this thing. Yeah.
That's when you made the decision. What did your parents have to say about it at that time?
I mean, they're fine. Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, it's like I got the scholarship to go to college because
Yeah.
of my art, so and grades or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna do art. This is my thing. Yeah.
I hear you. So, there is a professor that I'm going to touch on in a few questions, but where I want to go first is talk to me about, and this could have been in college or maybe post college as you start to enter the actual work field, but any early obstacles that you can recall as you were trying to, get yourself grounded and set yourself up for success.
Yeah. So one of the things in college was there were so many avenues of art that I was into. So I actually ended up double majoring in graphic design and illustration. Graphic design because I actually had an uncle and a cousin who were graphic designers, and I didn't know what that was when I was, I knew they were graphic designers when I was not in college yet. But when
Hmm.
I actually fell in love with graphic design. We had a great graphic design program at VCU, so I was really into that. And then I was also very into illustration. And when I was a junior, yeah, junior, an art director from from Nike's advertising agency came and gave a talk, and he
Okay.
showed like, all kinds of cool stuff that I was into, like illustrated, animated music videos. They had like these dope Nike ads with like awesome layouts and graphic design, and it just seemed like there was so much going on uh, in that industry. Um,
Hmm.
and so I found myself into like in that field. I eventually became an art director in advertising for 7 years, working on stuff like that. So um, yeah, so I forgot what the question was.
Obstacles. So you get that, you're like, that looks like where I want to go to, but just early obstacles that
Oh,
made it, yeah, that almost like challenged you, made you question like, did I make the right choice?
so when I was so when I had that route, I was fine, and I loved advertising for a while, and um, I could still do advertising because it's fun because there's you're always working on different things.
Hmm.
Um, I'm working with like top creatives across all media, so it's always interesting. You're always like, oh, who's this latest director? Who's this latest photographer? Maybe we can collaborate with them to make this. But um, what I found when I was in advertising was that I really love painting and drawing like the most. Like if I
Hmm.
had to spend most of my time doing something, that's what I want to do. So I would say the first obstacle was like, how do I leave my advertising like madman job to just like do artwork, for myself. I mean, or for other people, and just live, be able to live. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but I kind of got around that obstacle by just like kind of doing the training wheels, which was basically I did freelance stuff on the side and personal projects for almost 3 years while I was in advertising. So
yeah,
I would just even like, you know, I do my advertising job, and then I would just like stay later at the office and do, you know, fan art, little editorial gigs and stuff like that. And I just built it up until it wasn't sustainable. Like I would either have to turn down projects um, or quit my job. So that
I mean,
was
that's definitely powerful insight because, right, like you were doing your full-time job and then you gave yourself a partial, a part-time job on top of that to then even it out and make that jump right. Like what you were doing at your 9 to 5, maybe you enjoyed 20% of it and you were trying to find a way to take that 20 and make it 100% of the time,
yeah.
right?
Well, I'll tell you what. It was hard. It was harder than that because I liked it more than 20%. Because
Mhm.
yeah, being an advertising agency, being at an advertising agency, especially a
Mhm.
very creative one, is is always exciting. You're always working on different things, but yeah, so that's what really made it so tough. If it was 9 to 5, that I was like, I hate this. Like, that's it's
Mhm.
easy. And also like, um, I think in any creative field, the more you like something, the more like extra hours you put into it. So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like I could just do like my 9 to 5 at like whatever a regular job, and then I'm like I'm
yeah,
done, and then let me go draw this. It's like I'm working on this, and I'm trying to come up with more ideas for this thing. So it really was a struggle for that 3 years, like
yeah.
and and also like yeah, it was almost like I have it great, and I could see myself keep going, but
Yeah, I mean,
that
7 years. 7 years is a good amount of time. And if I'm correct about this, that industry is very tight on deadlines, right? Like it's
oh
almost
yeah.
like projects come up the week of or 2 weeks out. So even you wanting to do your own passion stuff outside of it, it's kind of like contingent on what other fires you have to put out first.
Oh yeah, advertising is all about last minute. I mean
Yeah,
it's everything. So actually that,
yeah.
and I think it trained me a lot to be independent.
Hmm.
It
Absolutely.
prepared me so much to be just an independent artist. So.
Yeah, and so did your when you were doing your passion projects outside of work, taking, I wouldn't even say the commissions that you took, it was more like your artwork. If you were spending your own time trying to get your craft to another level, did it always gravitate towards sports, or did you also dabble in anything else? Did you say like maybe it's one of these two or one of these three and we'll see which one sticks?
Well, so what happened was like my early just experiments just took off right away, and it was
Okay.
MMA, and it was because of the MMA community. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I was into you know football or something like that, it wouldn't have I wouldn't have had so many opportunities. Like I did like a little UFC fan art, and I posted it on my Tumblr,
Mm-hmm.
hashtag, and that first one got on MMA Reddit and Twitter. And then I did another one that um, I did like a fan poster of like Mark Hunt, and he made his that artwork his like Facebook profile picture,
Oh,
and it's
nice.
so fast, like because the MMA community is so tight online, especially.
It's tight. It's not as saturated the way you said, like for football, right? Like football, there's so much. So it's still a young sport. So you came
Especially,
in at the right time.
yeah, especially when I was doing just that stuff like over 10, like 10 years ago or something like that.
And it
Um,
doesn't hurt when your artwork's actually really good, right? Like that.
No,
So
it was good. I mean, I felt I was always I felt I was always good, and I did good in college and stuff. But it's different. It's different
well, yeah,
from
you look back. I'm sure you look back at any of your work, right? And you're like, I can do a million things better. I bet some scary way you're gonna look back at your 300 mural and still find all these, holes you can poke in it. But I think that's just a product of an artist in general and somebody that wants to improve in what they do, every day.
yeah. I mean, so yes. So just to finish,
Yeah.
thought was um, because my early stuff took off. I very soon got the opportunity with Vice Fightland to
Hmm.
do just editorial illustrations, and that was while I was still developing. But it was such a great way to develop because, first of all, editorial illustration is fast, right? It's probably like the fastest thing. And I wouldn't even say what I was doing was editorial illustration because um, I didn't have a specific brief or a deadline to hit. It was basically like, um, who's fighting next? I'll just do like a picture of them,
Yeah.
and they were like, that's cool, because
That works. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of like online editorial illustration budget is like not a lot. So
Okay.
it was
Okay.
just like, oh, that's cool. This guy can, he's cool. He's an illustrator. He wants to do MMA stuff, whatever. We'll put out. So I had that, that was like holding me accountable. So I'd be like,
Yeah.
so I would just try different things, and I didn't have to think. It wasn't concept driven. It was just like cool pictures, which is
Yeah.
cool portraits, which is what I love anyway. So
Yeah.
um, that's I was so lucky again to be able to develop that way, as opposed to just like maybe I'm taking a year and just making these artworks and nobody's seeing them. I put out like an oil painting of Ronda Rousey, and they put on it's on Vice, boom, 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 huge. And then I do like a colored pencil of something else. I did like I did an acrylic painting with like gold acrylics for Cain Velasquez. I did a portrait of him. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
and then it just it was like such an incredible way to learn,
Yeah.
so and develop the style.
Pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty early on, it felt like you knew you were onto something. You were fortunate that when you did that first Tumblr post, right, it got put on other platforms. Give us a timeline, like how much time went from Tumblr post to Vice giving you, and that call to come on board.
Like right away, like a month or so. Because so I think
Holy, wow,
it was like because it was some through Twitter something like because
insane.
same with the Mark Hunt. Somebody added Mark Hunt. Boom, he puts it on it. And we connected with the Vice guy over a bigger MMA Twitter personality. Adding them or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Especially in 2014 or whenever that was, 2015. Like I think even the MMA editorial space online was even tighter. Because it was
okay,
so small. It was just a few. You know,
yeah.
I mean, same guys who are around now, but a
But
lot
yeah, exactly.
less.
Just much younger. That's insane. 1 month. Wow. So did you is there any fun story to that? Like were you putting off posting something on Tumblr? Like did that almost not happen? Or were you like, for sure that you knew you were gonna go down that route?
No, I mean, uh, yeah, right when I got the opportunity, I was just like, it was already in the vein of things I was experimenting with. So I was just immediately thinking, oh, what am I going to draw next? Like what kind of paint am I going to use this time? Like it took me, um, a couple illustrations to kind of not develop my style, but develop a lot of the techniques that kind of uh, are found in my works,
Yeah.
today. Um, but yeah, it was right away. It was right away.
That's really cool. The I had a question on I'm blanking out. What my question was still going to be on that experience. Oh yeah, yeah. So a theme that we're going to have as we talk about some of the projects and opportunities that have come up is I'm always fascinated with the was it a call, was it an email, was it a oh shit moment, was it a like, celebratory moment, some of that. So how did the Vice thing come about, and was that a big deal to you to get that, phone call or email?
So I think, damn, I'm forgetting which one. If it was the first one or second one, but I think maybe it was more the second one. So the first one I did was like I told you, I was in the, I'm into Street Fighter. I have like the Street Fighter, the Art of Street Fighter books. I was like, I want to do like one of those collages of all the fighters, like in
Mm-hmm.
Street Fighter, but with all the UFC champions. So I did one of those, and that kind of went. But I think the next one I did, which was like a fan art of, it was Roy Nelson and Mark Hunt. So Mark Hunt is my guy, especially after he posted my thing. I was like, oh, that's my guy. Dana White is somebody, like in the MMA thing, tagged Dana White in it, and he Instagrammed it and Twitter posted it. A fan
Wow,
made this, boom, and I was like, whoa, that was like huge. I was just like,
that's huge.
I was like, oh my god! And then I think that same one was when Mark Hunt, posted, it on his profile picture, and it might have been that one where I got the Vice call. So
Okay.
it was all like that whole. I was just like, like that, because it's like it's one thing when that was kind of my first taste of um, all the guys that you're watching. You're starting to communicate with them online. You're like, whoa.
It's happening. It's taking
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah. So,
All right. So now I want you to talk to us about George Pratt. You credit him for your art style. I'd like to know how he made his mark on you.
oh yeah, mark is a good word because he's a master of mark making. Um, so I think before George Pratt, I felt like art was very, to me, it was very academic in that these are the ways to draw. Like you draw with charcoal pencil. The pencil drawing. You do oil painting. You do, and this is like how you do it. You do
Hmm.
like layers and stuff like that. But um, George Pratt was all about mark making because he's an illustrator. He was an illustrator and comic book artist also, but not in the way you might think. More like a painter. But he could
Okay.
also with ink and stuff like that. But his whole thing was capturing an expression quickly. So it doesn't matter. You're not like when you're trying to capture a vision quickly, you're kind of doing whatever you can to create the image in as least amount of strokes as possible. You know, as in like, and that kind of cuts away a lot of the thinking about like constructing or starting. Where do I start with like the eyeball or whatever? It's like if you have an image, you want to capture you want to put the image out. You want to capture emotion. How do you do it? Like, and he would use all kinds of things. He would be like, one of his philosophies was, uh, and one of the ways he trained you as an illustrator was we would do like 20, 20-second poses, where we'd have a figure and we do it in 20 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes. So it's like when you have 20 seconds, you kind of distill what is the most important
Hmm.
information that I can put down quickly. And when you do that, you have a different energy than if you're starting and you're like, I have forever on this. Then maybe you'll start, very small, and then but when you have the time crunch and all that, you kind of develop an energy. And I was kind of into that because that, like I said, I was in the comic books, video games, stuff like that. So it's all about the impact, like the splash pages.
That's
So
exactly the word impact is what was coming to mind when you were saying 20 seconds. I'm like, just
yeah,
by the nature of wanting to get it done so fast, it feels like you're gonna almost hit the canvas in a way
yeah,
where there's
yeah,
impact to it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And what what it teaches you to do is really simplify what you're trying to get across.
Hmm.
What are the main? like if it's a figure, what are the main shadows and shapes that's going to get that across? And that is also that becomes the most important details, anyways. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like it's you make one stroke that defines the back, the leg, boom, 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 and yeah, it's so basically, I'm kind of rambling, but
Yeah.
uh, he would use all kinds of he would also experiment with all kinds of tools
I
to
heard that.
make
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
more interesting marks. You know, so he was the one where using rollers, different random things from Home Depot, just different to make more expressive marks. Um, and yeah, I took a lot from that. I took a lot from that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea would be to get you comfortable with doing something with 20 seconds a minute. And then once you understood what it meant to do that, then you can take an hour doing something, but you now know how to go about it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Got it. And do you stay in touch with him often? What does he think about what you've been able to do so far?
Nah, he's a busy guy. So he's still a professor. So he's just one of those guys that he's always done projects as an illustrator. Like
Hmm.
I think he does the random painted comic book cover. He did his own like 4 issue painted Wolverine miniseries like in the '90s. Um, but no, he teaches in Florida now, and
Okay.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah,
Got it. All right. So I'm going to read a quote to you that you said in the past, which I reacted to in a way where I was like, that I don't know if you knew what you said when you
okay,
said it. So it's important to be in a flow state when you're putting paint to paper. And that's because you're working with tools that can exaggerate emotions. Now, this is the part that really stood out to me. So it's important for each of your marks to be purposeful and have intent. So I felt that last sentence is profound because it's important for each of your marks to be purposeful and have intent. I'm curious if you carry that type of philosophy in your day to day life of just always being purposeful and intentional about what you do and where that, what I call doer mind state, comes from.
okay. Well, you know what? I think it definitely applies to the art because the type of art that I like to make um, has a certain kind of energy and boldness um, that kind of comes with conf- confidence or conviction in your brushstrokes and stuff like that. And I do think that comes in to everyday life because it's kind of I guess relating it to art it kind of cuts away the fat. It makes you think about, it makes you prioritize what's important, and I think yeah, it allows you to maybe make the most important moves and make the best out of what you're trying to achieve. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no, and and like that's kind of why it hit me. I operate with the goal to always be purposeful and intentional. But one thing I will say is because I'm not an artist in the traditional sense, right? I think it's easier for me to put less weight on trying to strive for perfection and more to be marginally better every day. Which is a good pivot to then like asking you, given that you are an artist in the traditional sense,
Yeah.
right? How do you balance perfection in your artwork? Is it something that you believe you could attain and achieve, or do you know that it's going to be a difficult task, so you have to balance that?
Yeah, it's so I feel like it's deadlines that helps me balance it out. Yeah, like dude, um, so I always have this thing. Probably in the last couple days when I'm going to finish, I call the agony phase. I mean,
Okay.
I always have an agony phase. It's always like it'll be really fun when I start the sketches, and then I'm like trying to figure out like this one middle part until I have a sketch that I really like, and then I'm like,
Okay.
yes, I went over the first agony phase, and then this is the last agony phase when I'm like finishing it, and like I have to, it has to be done. It's like it has to be done, and that's it. And I have
Yeah.
to keep looking at it. I like, I scan it in. We do it as, and then I have it as JPEG on my phone. I'm like, oh damn it, and then I have to go change the whole thing again. But um, I think what's been helpful is starting out as an illustrator where you have the pressure of deadlines and it's like you got
Yeah.
to get done. So it's like that thing where I guess like George Pratt, you got to think about what the most important things are and analyze. Boom, boom. I got to go do this, this, and this. Also, I think what's helped me a lot is doing street art, like
Okay.
murals, because that's definitely a time thing, and you can't just be like out there forever. So,
Yeah.
like, especially it's massive, so you have to think about. So, you know, actually, what I learned from doing street art is one thing I do is like before I start the work for the day is I kind of just look at it and then I just make notes of all the different things that I want to change, as opposed to like kind of just going up and just starting to paint everywhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
because that's what I would have to do on doing big walls, because it's like
Hmm.
when I'm up there on the ladder and stuff, or the lift, I can't like see the whole thing anymore. So
Correct.
what I do is like I step back. I'm like, I gotta fix this, fix this, fix this, and I make a list, and then I like do it like a printer. Like, all right, now I'm on the top hand. Boom, I do this. I'm gonna fix this. Gonna
You
fix
take a
this. So
picture of it as well for reference to have up there.
yeah, and I even take it a step further now with murals. Is I take a picture and then I just draw over. I mark it up in Photoshop.